So what shall we call this? A Tale of Two Classics Part 2? It's funny that, again, we have a green classic and a red classic, whereas the first time, though, we had the olive drab as the green, which was just a regular production line, even though it was an exclusives collection model. It showed the two classics and their abilities side by side, but this time it's two modified classics coming from the demo shop. Now, both of these were sold through the demo shop, and realistically, the translucent cherry is probably more representative of the demo shop, and this one is definitely more on par with what you would see from the actual Gibson mod shop. And they both show on the back of their headstocks as mods. Now, the Mystic Forest has a blue border and a gold colored sheen that is next to impossible to capture unless you get it in just the right sunlight. It is missing the Les Paul silkscreen, but it does have the standard classic setup. And everything on the inside of this guitar, except for the actual wiring, looks exactly like the classic that we took and looked at. That was the olive drab stock one. But this one is a little different. It has a different pick guard and looks exactly the same when you take the parts apart, but it also has something that the Mystic Forest doesn't have, which is the push-pull pots for coil splitting, as well as phase reversal and pure bypass. You, of course, got to keep its Les Paul silkscreen. So, like I say, that's one of the things that makes me say that the finish combined with the actual missing Les Paul silkscreen really does make me feel like this guitar is a significantly more representative of what you would get from the actual Gibson mod collection. And I'm kind of surprised it didn't wind up there, and I almost wonder if there's something that I'm overlooking that made it not be there. But the rosewood is extra rosy. The appointments are good. Both of them share black hardwares, although if you look at the red one, you'll be able to see it has the chrome mixed parts on the bridge and tailpiece, whereas the Mystic Forest went all black and stayed there. So those really are very, very similar. The uncovered dirty fingers makes for a really killer dark look on the Mystic Forest burst, and I'm a huge fan of those. But I will say this, those black strap buttons, they're tiny, and I'm not sure how far back those go, because even my 2011 model had bigger buttons than that, and this is what was stock on a regular classic. So even on the olive drab exclusive collection, you got the bigger buttons like that. So kind of surprised to see that. Was not really expecting that being a difference. Had forgotten that the other classic had the bigger strap buttons. But right now we're going to go to the back of them, and then I want you to see the difference in the way they're wired. So the really big difference between these two, other than obviously the color, is the way they are wired. Now, this is the back of the 2021 translucent cherry, and it has all of the modern day switching with the coil splits and then the phase bypass or the phase control and the bypass on it. So you can see that it has all of the modern dip switches right inside there. So you can see everything is very much, even though it is CTS, it is a electronic style setup where it's probably on, it's on a printed circuit board, which is still mostly hand wired because of the way it's put together, but the actual units themselves are not the same as the more classic setup on these Gibson branded pots that are for the other classic, which has the natural back, or the more natural looking back. It's kind of a brown, but this one has it has the tones, or the volumes, and then the tones with no other extraneous switching or ability. And you can see the shield down there. And like I say, but these are Gibson branded pots, and they are definitely hand wired. So when they took this one apart to put the dirty fingers in there, they really did jump on a hand wired CPA, which they broadcast that in the description of the guitar on Reverb. So hand wired CPA with standard pots versus the modern CPA with dip switches and all the fun things you can do to the classics pickups, phase selection, bypass, tone control split, or volume control, push-pull splits. So it really is a big difference. I mean, like I say, now the actual wood, if you look on the back, is still pretty nice, but there's something about the way that just has a lot of mineral streak and deposit in it, and has that candy stripe that we kind of saw on the modern when we took and pulled it back. Took a look at its back, which it has the same setup as the classic. So that's all modern stuff, and this is more of a throwback to kind of what's done at the custom shop. So that's pretty good work, especially with the capacitors and everything. So which one would you choose? Does fancy green with the lack of modern coil splitting, phase and bypass, does it bother you not to have it? I'll be honest, I've always thought that I really liked the way that all that fit together, but something about that Mystic Forest Burst just sounds so good with the dirty fingers. I almost feel like if you split them or had some kind of change in the way that that was wired, it would not sound as good. And I'll be putting these up next to each other in a video later that will feature all of what we currently have as mod collection guitars, or demo shop modded guitars. The only exception to the ones that we have is the Ebony VOS Custom is a custom shop modified Ebony VOS. So it has a little bit different setup to it than the other, than this. It is wired a little bit differently. It's a little more hand wired. There's a little more attention done to it because it was done at the mod shop. But overall, I think for myself, I swore I'd never say this, but I think I like the way the Mystic Forest Burst and the Dirty Finger sound, and it really has a great feel to it. And I really like the way that translucent cherry looks, and I'm a huge fan of red guitars. But there's just something about that Mystic Forest Burst that everything about it was just done right. So, which one would you choose? Talk about it in the comments. Tell them which one you'd like. Like I say, I think both of these are going to go up, and whichever one doesn't sell, I'll keep. But as of right now, I really like the way that Mystic Forest brush does sound, and the feeling of it is just outstanding. Look for a video soon with all of the Mod Shop guitars next to each other. Until next time.